Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Again, it's Friday at City Hall, and each weekend I come to you with some information about some of the things that have happened here, as well as throughout our community, as well as to give you some information that might help you as we move into the next week. As you're all aware, this past Wednesday, Governor Hochul removed the mask requirement for schools. So that schools, actually masks have been required in schools since in-person learning resumed sometime in mid-2020. So it's a welcome shift. As I do each weekend, I still want to remind people that our best defense is the vaccines and boosters. But certainly this is a step in the right direction as we begin to see mask mandates being lifted in a lot of different areas. In some of the areas where it is not lifted, one is, for instance, our buses. The NFTA is still requiring riders to wear masks while they're riding on the buses. This is at least in effect until March 18th. So as soon as we get some additional information on that changing, those of you that are patrons of the NFTA buses will let you know that. But currently, you are still required to wear a mask if you're riding on one of our buses. At City Hall, the mask requirement is optional. It's not required. If you are more comfortable wearing a face covering when you come here, it's fine. If you are not, that's fine too. It is your option. The weather has begun to become a little bit more mild. It's very cold, but we have not seen any snow for the last several days. And as a consequence, the number one culprit after the freeze and thaw are potholes. And so we've been receiving a number of calls about potholes. And like many cities across the Northeast, potholes continue to be a scourge as the weather moves from winter into spring. Currently, our Department of Public Works is out repairing those areas that are obviously in need of repair. They're also doing an assessment of highly trafficked areas to make sure they attack those. And then clearly, as we receive some information, we try to become responsive to those requests of the residents. But, of course, we will continue to do this pothole patching all throughout this period. I know that we may not get to the pothole that you're most annoyed with fast enough, but we will certainly be getting around to all of them. So your patience and your understanding is appreciated. This is National Women's Month. This month we recognize all of the many contributions that women have made in history. And one of the things, a few years back, 2019, I had the pleasure of meeting one of the surviving members of the they call themselves 6888. It's a division of the military back in World War II. They were the Central Postal Directory Battalion. What they are best remembered for is that during World War II, as you know, there were many couples who were split and children from their families in defense of the war. And so postal delivery was important. It was the single most effective way for people to communicate with family members. Well, because of the large volume as well as the other activities that were going on in the war effort, there was a huge glut collection of mail, and I believe it was in Europe where the collection was. So this battalion was actually dispatched to that area, and within weeks they were getting all of these very important messages from parents to children, from spouses to one another out. It was that small effort that made those who were fighting the war feel a bit more comfortable while they were away from home. And the group has been striving for recognition for this effort in the war for quite some time. And as I say, I had the pleasure of meeting one of the survivors. There are only, I believe, 6 or 7 members of the battalion surviving, and I had the pleasure of meeting one of them in 2019. And we talked about their push for recognition. These women, it was an all-female black unit, African-American unit, that was deployed to Europe during World War II to, again, assist in this effort to get letters to U.S. troops. They did a fabulous job. History will remember how important that was, again, to the morale of the war effort. And this past week, the House of Representatives voted unanimously to honor the unit, and so they're one step closer to receiving the Congressional Gold Medal. I think, first of all, it is fabulous that they are getting the recognition that they are entitled to. I also think it's fabulous that the House of Representatives voted unanimously. It doesn't happen much over there, as I think all of us know as we look at how the conversation goes in Washington. The Senate already approved this honor, and now the bill will go to President Biden. Again, of the original 855 members, only 7 members are alive, and as I say, I had the pleasure of meeting one of them a few years ago. So congratulations to them. I'm sure that President Biden will sign this, and while there are only 7 of that 855 member battalion left, the 7 members who survive and the family of the remaining members should be honored with this wonderful recognition. In addition to that, let's remember the important part that Niagara Falls played in the National Women's Movement. The site of the Women's National Convention for Voting Rights held here in the city of Niagara Falls. So as we look back on history and we see the important contributions that women have made, Niagara Falls has certainly its place in those activities. We're expecting, again, mild but cold weather for the weekend. So again, I'm going to ask everybody to please be careful when you're out there. Of course, be careful driving. As I've indicated, this is the difficult time of year when we're trying to catch up on the various road conditions that have been changed because of the freeze and thaw that will occur. Again, while we're getting the many of the mask mandates and other restrictions loosened, one of the things that we continue to fight for is for some sensibility at our border. The Canadian government continues to require testing for anyone entering into Canada. I took part in a border mayor's press conference earlier this week, asking again for the Canadian government to reconsider and to perhaps take a page out of the way in which the U.S. government has approached the land border. Again, as I've said over and over again, if we're going to incentivize vaccines, then let's go all in. If you're going to cross the border and you can show proof that you're fully vaccinated, that should be enough. The virus itself is never going to be extinguished. Even the science is telling us that it's something we're going to have to live with. So I think what we need to do is incentivize this vaccine more and more and more. And to do that, all of these small acts, like, for instance, allowing the land border to become open and freely traveled because of one being fully vaccinated, I think is the right way to go. So again, please enjoy all that there is out in Niagara Falls going on this weekend. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Please be safe.